guys, what is up? My name is Jeracraft and we are finally back for another episode of Kingdoms of Greymane. For those of you who are new to my channel, this has been an ongoing Minecraft project since 2012, which is pretty much the first ever video uploaded to this channel.
So yeah, I've created this map and it's not finished.
It's just crazy to see just how much this build has progressed over the years, and in the last couple of episodes we have been undertaking some serious changes, from redesigning the outer city to a complete rework of the entire island in which this mighty kingdom stands. We have built everything from working shipyards, housing, waterfalls, castles, even an entire sewage undercity, complete with hidden passageways and tunnels connecting to different parts of the city. But guys, believe it or not, we still have tons of exciting new content waiting to be built and discovered. So without further ado, let's begin today's epic Minecraft adventure. Right guys, now we are going to continue just where we left off in the last episode, where we just completely transformed the main city's dockyard. But my biggest concern right now is the fact we have no way of crossing over to the opposite side of the river, which can be a bit of an issue. So I've decided the best option is to use the city's tallest towers to build and connect a bridge from one side of the river to the other. Of course, I've turned this into a massive structure, simply because we need the bridge to be tall enough to still allow ships to sail into the dockyard. You can just imagine sailing under this bridge and opening up to a view of the entire city. But this new bridge has also opened up a brand new problem, and that is the fact that crossing over leads straight into the city, making most of the walls pretty much pointless. So as crazy as this might sound, we are going to build one final line of defense, a massive wall which will finally completely surround the entire kingdom. I've placed this exact design on the opposite side of the city, because you guys know how much I love my symmetry. But now we have two main bridges cutting across the river, well defended by this huge wall. Of course, I had to redesign some of the landscape in order for this to work. And honestly, I don't know what inspired me to carry out this immense task, but I continued placing these wall segments far out into the distance, pretty much like recreating the Great Wall of China, and I think I've been in this situation before. Almost like a miniature version of the Wall of China, except this time the wall is not so miniature, standing tall well over 30 blocks, twisting and turning past entire mountains, eventually joining the wall to the outer city dockyard connecting to the sea gate. But the wall itself won't be enough on its own, as some of these sharp turns can look a bit out of place, so I've also decided to build a few defensive towers to keep watch over the kingdom. Of course, these towers had to be relatively big in order to match with the rest of the wall, and this just took an insane amount of time to detail, but you really just have to walk right up to the wall to see just how massive this tower is. I don't know why, but this entire project just gives me Game of Thrones vibes for some reason. Now, I'm not sure how far this wall is going to continue on the right side of the city, but I know for a fact that we need to leave some space for farmland, and usually farmland is found outside the city walls. But if we take a look at the map now, you can see we have finally completely surrounded the entire city in a wall, and we pretty much have plenty of space to expand with in the future. And if you haven't noticed, I have left some space between the walls to allow for a brand new entrance. There are going to be 3 of these in total, so we have the south, the east and the west main gates. But honestly guys, this is going to be the last of the main city gates. Like, we already have to get through 4 massive gateways just to get inside the mountain. So just imagine being an outsider trying to assassinate the king on his throne. You would have to cross all these defensive structures completely undetected and somehow find your way into the throne room. So I think this would make for a pretty interesting Assassin's Creed style map. But in all seriousness, I just love this design simply because the city now feels completely separated from the outside world. But now guys, we are going to bring our attention to the right side of the city, which definitely needs a complete transformation. As of now, the river is completely cut off, and these mountains were really just there to stop people getting into the city. But now that we have a proper defensive wall, we can continue building the river and get rid of these excess mountains, just to free up some space. This river is going to continue up to the very top of the mountain, while at the same time building a series of bridges, paths and waterfalls. Honestly, I'm not sure what we're going to do with all this extra space, but I definitely like the fact we have this path leading up into the mountain. It just feels like a very adventurous place to explore. But as we continue progressing up the mountain, I thought it would be a really cool idea to attempt building a water dam connecting to the wall. This was quite the experimental build, as I've never actually built a water dam before, but it does match with the general theme, and I thought it would be fun to also add some basic redstone to go along with it. So if you were to travel up this mountain path, you will eventually find a door that will grant you access into the water dam. From here you will also have 3 main levers, 1 control for each of the different floodgates. Again, it's a pretty basic bit of redstone, but I thought it was worth adding just for fun. And if the gates are left open, you can actually swim right through from the opposite side. Apart from that, you can also gain access to the main city wall following a staircase up to the next level. And as you can see, we've made quite a significant transformation already. Now of course, all this extra space still needs a lot of work, but you guys know we will get there eventually. Right now, I really want to focus on what I think needs the most attention, which is the main city. This empty space has been around for way too many episodes, and there are still buildings waiting to be transformed. But this was built almost 6 years ago, and it's really just a complete mess of blocks. So we're going to get rid of this entire section once and for all. But most importantly guys, we're going to start introducing some new building designs and start expanding on this massive city. I really wanted this area to feel slightly more overcrowded, making the buildings much bigger and taller than usual, almost like the houses have been stacked on top of each other. I must have spent hours upon hours building and decorating every single bit of empty space I could find, but I honestly just love the fact you get to explore this dense city and practically get lost wandering through a maze of buildings and alleyways. Out of all the stuff we've built in today's episode, this is by far my favorite up till now. Now I must admit, I did use commands to finish off the opposite side of the city, simply to save myself from another excruciating 50 hours of building, but I feel like having this entire structure be symmetrical and fully connected seems much more appealing. Oh, and for some reason I also decided to transform these giant doors. Honestly, I have no idea why. I just got bored of seeing that same design these past 4 years. And for those of you who might be curious, this is what the city looked like just a couple of episodes ago. It was honestly an absolute mess and extremely outdated. I think we can all agree that destroying the old city was definitely worth the risk. Right guys, we are finally down to the next transformation, which has been long overdue. So moving on into the next zone, we have the old outdated Basilica, which right now is completely covered with damages, missing blocks and a completely empty interior. Being such a large building, I had literally no idea where to even begin. I had to use some green concrete blocks to roughly mark out a brand new shape for this monumental cathedral. Of course, as always, I got extremely carried away. My goal for this transformation is to attempt building a much larger, more detailed, epic looking basilica. In all fairness, the old design was also built over 6 years ago, and there is just so much more I would have done differently, not to mention all the new blocks added to the game, giving us so many more possibilities when it comes to building. But at this point, I was even running out of building space, so I had to use commands to push the entire cathedral forward just a few blocks, with my fingers crossed, hoping to squeeze in the rest of this church without making the game crash. I mean, this build is by far the biggest structure on the entire Kingdoms of Greymane project, a monumental basilica with a massive dome which now towers over the rest of the city, and right at the top, a single wooden cross to add that finishing touch. I mean, I absolutely love the look of this basilica, and here is a side-by-side comparison of what we've managed to transform. I know you guys have seen this come together in just a matter of minutes, but honestly, this church took weeks to build. In fact, this entire episode has been one of the biggest updates to Kingdoms of Greymane ever. Now hopefully guys, we will get around to building the interior soon along with the rest of the city, but if you guys want to get your hands on this world, be sure to check out www.jeracraft.net. If you purchased a USB in the past, you will be entitled to a free update. I hope you guys consider subscribing, and I will catch you in the next one.